Welcome to the Hump Day Hangout podcast by Semantic Mastery, where we answer your local SEO questions every week at 4 p.m. Eastern. I'm Adam Moody, and my partner at Semantic Mastery, Bradley Benner, will be sharing his decades of expertise based on not only helping others, but running his own agencies and businesses in the space. If you'd like to join us live on YouTube each week, just go to www.semanticmastery.com/HDHO at 4 p.m. Eastern on Wednesdays. If you'd like to ask a question ahead of time, go to the same link, www.semanticmastery.com/HDHO at any time and submit it there. Don't forget you can get the Semantic Mastery Local SEO Toolkit for free at the same URL. Okay, let's get going with this episode. All right, we are live. Welcome everybody to Hump Day Hangouts. This is episode number 544. Today is the last day, the 30th of April, 2025, and we are going to get into your local SEO questions. In just a minute, we're going to say hello to everybody. Got a couple of quick announcements, and then we will be getting into it. So with that said, Chris, how you doing today?
Doing good. Actually, I've been out running next to the Danube today, so enjoying the nice spring weather. Not in the woods, but yeah, as usual, enjoying the time.
Nice. Well, I was out for a run today as well. Yesterday it was 85 here. Today it's 45. So quite the swing, but at least the sun was out, and we got some thunderstorms came through last night, so knocked some of the pollen out, and that makes me happy. So, Bradley, how about you? How's the weather down south there?
Yeah, same thing. We had a hell of a bunch of storms last night, but it's been nice, been really nice last few days. I've been outside every evening. I sit in this damn tuna can on wheels all day, and I get to look out the windows at the beautiful weather on top of this mountain when it's nice. And I just sit here longing to be outside. So as soon as I get a chance to break off at the end of the evening, which is usually between 5 and 6 p.m., somewhere in that neighborhood, I try to spend the next, 2.5 hours outside in the and that's actually it's usually a little bit cooler at that time too, but I try to stay out there until it gets, starts getting dark. So, and then on the weekends, I try to spend my entire weekends outside when possible, but weather permitting. So it's a good time of year to be here. That's for sure.
Fair enough. Well, the opposite of being outside, being inside. We mentioned this last week. We share a lot of information via email. If you're not on the email list, head over to semanticmastery.com. Hop on that. We take a lot of the content we share on YouTube and we try to summarize that, put some of that into email format. And if you're someone who's been watching for more than 0 weeks, you know that Bradley spends a lot of time testing, sharing what works, sharing with others what's going on as far as local SEO, what's working in his agency, what he's testing, what's working, what's not working. And we want to kind of take that another step. And so what we're going to be doing is taking all of that, which, encapsulates hours worth of content, and turning the best of it into fast, kind of focused, a weekly brief, just the stuff that you can take and take action on, nothing else. That is going to be a paid newsletter. The goal here is really to provide 10x the value, but something that you can get on a weekly basis, that might have been hours worth of original content, and condensing that down into something you can scan and take away 1, 2, 3, up to 5 or 7 items that you could put to work in your agency or if you're freelancing. So we'll be announcing some more about that in the near future. Just keep your eyes and ears open for that. And again, if you're not already on the Semantic Mastery email list, head over to semanticmastery.com and jump on to that. So, I'm going to let Bradley say something or whatever he wants about this, but I will just tell you, I think Bradley is really excited about this. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's great. What we're doing is, we're basically summarizing the webinars that I host on a weekly basis. Every other week, every 2 weeks, I do the Mastermind with Bradley SEO webinar, which is where I go into great detail about whatever it is that I want to teach about, or if, and sometimes it's a combination of what I want to teach about as well as questions or discussions that we were having in the Circle community, which is our, mastermind community. Or I'll be analyzing or auditing somebody's project that they asked me to audit, that they agreed I could do as part of a kind of training opportunity. Or I'll be doing a site structure kind of example to show people how to apply the methods that I've been teaching to a particular circumstance or situation. Because I get this question all the time in the mastermind is about like, how come you don't have SOPs for on-page optimization? It's because the configuration of every website is going to be different depending on the circumstance of the business, the situation. Like, what is the business's service areas? What are their services? Is it a single service category or multiple service category business? Do they serve one location or multiple locations? Do they have one physical location or multiple GBPs? All of those change how you would structure the site. There's no way I could have an SOP for all of that, but so I offer to show if somebody has a request for how would you structure a site in this particular industry, and then they provide the details, then I will give some example structures on how I would do it. And that's always a good starting point. Just to be clear, I say this all the time. Whatever I prepare I'm not saying that's gospel or law as being the best performing structure and configuration. What I'm saying is it's a very solid starting point. So anyway, a long story short, in the mastermind, we do our mastermind webinars every 2 weeks where I go it's usually between 2 and 2.5 hours long. Because we cover, sometimes it's a broad array of things, but a lot of the times it's something very deep that we get into. And so it takes a long time to get through all that. But then at the other weeks, on the other Thursdays, we have the Build with Bradley Meet discussion group, which is just a meeting. It's a Zoom meeting. And it's about an hour. Sometimes it goes longer, like it went almost 2 hours a couple of weeks ago. But that's a great. I love doing that because it's an actual discussion with members of the community, and so we can debate things. We can talk about things. I get new ideas from members. They tell me things that they're doing. I really enjoyed the Build with Bradley sessions. So in any case, the newsletters that we're coming out with are basically summaries of those, but not just like bullshit generic summaries. I mean, these are phenomenal. What Adam has been able to do on how to convert and like parse the important bits out of the webinars and put them into text-based format. It's very actionable. Like I've read several versions of them now since he started doing it. And I was just like, dude, these are amazing. I would very much appreciate that sort of a newsletter from some of the groups that I've been in. Yeah. So because I don't get to attend a lot of the webinars and things in the groups that I'm in because I just don't have the bandwidth. I don't have the time to commit to those. So I would rather get the highlights in like a Reader's Digest version, like the Blinkist? The Blinkist version of books.
Form. Yeah.
So it's like the short condensed versions with the actionable items. And it's, anyway, I think that after reviewing several versions of them, as we were, trying to determine if this is something that we wanted to launch, I was just like, dude, this is a no-brainer. I think this is amazing. And it's going to be very low cost. There's going to be, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Adam, if I'm misspeaking, but a free version of a newsletter, and then there's the paid version, which is going to be certainly a lot more detail. Is that correct?
Yeah, we've got to figure out the details. Like we're switching around how we're doing our newsletter, so that's still a gray area. But yeah, this is going to be. We mean this to be very affordable. We realize there's a jump between free content from us and then joining the mastermind. If you're not ready to join the mastermind, that's fine. But we do want to provide some, higher level information. But yes, if you want the one-on-one, you want the back and forth, then the mastermind is a place to be. And not everything from all of the mastermind webinars will be available. We're just going to put in the most actionable parts of this. And we are certainly using, AI machine learning to help us with this. And then it is being human reviewed. Which is something that I think is important still, and especially where it's timely and technical information. This stuff is being reviewed by human beings, namely Bradley Benner and myself. So I think that's an important part of this. So yeah, cool. Well, thanks, Bradley. That's really it on that end. If we don't have anything else, we can probably jump into the questions.
Yeah, we got quite a few, and then we still have some backed up questions from a couple of weeks ago that I didn't get to that I've been reserving in case we do have time. So, but yeah, just real quick, guys, like I said, that the paid newsletter is going to be very, very inexpensive, like less than $50 a month, probably half that, so it's a way for people to get kind of more into the training that we have without having to jump into the full mastermind yet. But anyways, just check it out when
we ask, or before they ask it, mastermind members who are watching, yes, you will get this for free.
Yes, of course they will. Of course they will. They get everything. All right, so I'm going to grab the screen, guys, and we're going to jump into it. And I see Eric posted question or comment already, and I believe he was the one that was asking about the knowledge panel only URL, and I got that resolved last week right after the meeting with the Hump Hangout session. So I posted it in the questions box or the questions form so that I wouldn't forget it and that we'd cover that. So I'm going to jump onto that one first, and then we'll jump back to the beginning of the questions for this week. So let me grab the screen, guys, and we'll get right into it. All right, so, oops, let me go. This one was a question from, I believe it was from Eric, but in any case, this is the KP only URL. You take a look at an example here. So I showed you how to do this last week. I gave you it in the chat. I put in an example URL that wasn't exactly the one that he wanted, but I said I'll figure it out and I'll get it. I'll add it to the list of things to cover this week. Okay, and so here it is. I'm going to put this in chat, guys, just so you have it. So I'm going to put KP only URL. And that's in chat now. And then what I'll do is pause the screen for a minute, put this into a notepad file so you guys can screenshot it as well. And I'll zoom in on it so you guys can just take a quick screenshot. For those of you that don't see chat or don't have access to chat, you can always grab this at a later time. But so here it is. So you'll see, again, it's very simple. Google.com/search, $KP only, and KGMID equals. And then that's the MRDID or whatever URL, the machine readable entity ID. That makes sense. So that's it. It's just KP only and KGMID. So google.com/search KP only and KGMID equals, and then that's your code right there. And for those of you that, because I know the next question is going to be, well, how do you get that code? Let's see out on our Filing Pro. If you're going to Google Maps and you got the Plepper extension, should show there. Takes a minute for that to load, so just give it a minute. There it is. And right there is the KG ID. So just get the Plepper Local SEO Tools extension if you don't have it. Install it in your Chrome browser. Go visit the GBP in Google Maps. And then right there, you'll see the KGM ID or the Knowledge Graph ID, excuse me. That's the code right there. And again, all you're going to do is append that code to the end of this query string right here. Boom, that's it. So go get your KG ID, and that's it. You append it right there to that query string. You're off to the races, right? And this is what it looks like. It's a knowledge panel only URL, right? So there you go. Ask and ye shall receive. Moving on. We're going to start with Huzaifa, his question. Yeah, because I believe we were on the 23rd last week. Yeah. Yeah, so it went from the 15th to the 25th, and that's because I hid some that I had answered last week. So we'll start here. In the pest control niche, there are 25 unique entity variants for the seed terms. So how many H2s should we create on the location page to use each variant? You don't need to use each variant. That about. Sorry, guys. Hold on. I had a call coming through. You don't need to use each variant. What I recommend is that don't try to squeeze or stuff a whole bunch of H2s into the page just so that you can use each of the variants for the pest control term, right? What is he talking about? So if you guys want me to kind of make sure that you understand the full context here. Pest control is an entity, right? It has its own page on Wikipedia. And so there are entity variants, which are just different synonyms that can be used interchangeably with the official term, at least according to Wikipedia, because they all mean the same thing. They're synonyms, okay? They can be used interchangeably with this term here, and they mean the same thing. So if we go to tools, what links here? Thanks to one of my members of the mastermind, or one of our members at the mastermind named Nolan, who's in the UK. He's the one that showed me this trick. It was my favorite SEO trick of 2024. I use it all the time. But here you can see that these are all the variants of the term pest control, and they all redirect to this pest control entity page. That makes sense. And so it doesn't matter. It's not that you have to use all these variants. What I'm saying is, so don't try to force more content onto the page just so that you can use more entity variants. Again, that's what SEOs have been doing when it was more of a keyword-based algorithm, and a lot of that stuff mattered. And what I found at local, at least for most areas, most locations, most competition levels that we typically work in, that's completely unnecessary. So all you should do is be aware of the entity variants and use them when you are optimizing the main optimization elements of the page. That's it. What are the main optimization elements of the page? I've talked about this, almost every week. But it starts with the URL. It's always the URL is the starting point, guys. Do you understand? That is how Google crawls the web, and that's how large language models crawl the web and ingest content. It's through URLs. So if anybody tells you that link building isn't important and that links are losing are diminishing in value as an overall part of SEO and everything, they're wrong, because that is how the large language models and Google and the search engines and everything crawls the web, is through links. So links are the page URL is the starting point. Okay, so that's what I'm talking about here, are the main optimization elements of the page. URL is number one. Titles are number two, but there's two titles, SEO title and the H1. Because an H1 is a page or post title. The SEO title is the meta title, right? Do you understand? So you've got now the URL titles. Now you have headings, which are H2s. Then you have subheadings, which are H3s, 4s, 5s, etc. Then you have internal links and media, right? So you've got a total of like 6 basically main optimization elements that you can squeeze entity variants into. That's what I'm talking about. And so I'm not saying it. And I never once have I ever said that you should try to use every entity variant. I've never said that. I swear, if anybody can find where I said that in some video, then please bring it to my attention, and I'll give you free membership to the mastermind for a quarter. Okay? I promise you're not going to find that, because I've never said that, because you would be way over optimizing the page and stuffing it with a bunch of headings that are unnecessary. You don't need to do that. Make the page relevant and proper to convey what the products or services are about. And if it's a location page, because that's what he's asking about here, I keep the location pages very scarce with content, because the location pages don't need to have a lot of content. The location pages should be user-friendly to help the users navigate and find the information that they're looking for, or navigate to the section of the site that has the information that they're looking for. Remember, it's the location pages that should be ranking, guys, for any search query with local intent. It's not the home page. It's not the service pages that should be ranking. It's the location page that should be ranking for a query with local intent. If it is a clear local intent search query, and Google's very clear about it, right? Then the location page is what should rank, not the service page, not the home page. So there's no reason for the location pages to have a wall of text with 3,000 words of content, because all the location page needs is proper SEO title, a restatement of the SEO title in the H1 using entity variants, back to the original question, then an H2 that introduces the services that are available at that location or in that area. Do you understand? So you don't need to have, so an H2 statement then again restates these are this company's services in this location, and you can use entity variants for the locations as well. Let me give you an example. Okay, so let's just say, I don't know, let's just pick one. I'm going to Roanoke, Virginia this weekend because my nephew is graduating college from Roanoke College. And so we're going to go look at Roanoke, Virginia Wikipedia. I just pulled that out of the air. All right, so if we go take a look at this as an example, we have Roanoke, Virginia is the official entity term for the location. If we click on tools, what links here? Hide transclusions and hide links. You could find other entity variants. I don't really care about those though, because when I'm talking about providing entity variants for a location, unless it's a region, so like, for example, Roanoke Valley is a region, or like, the Charlottesville metropolitan area, you could reference that. Typically look at the entity variants that are official entity variants, and look at, a lot of the times you'll see like greater Charlottesville or something like that. And so you can use those types of variants if you want. But when you're talking about a standard city, state type of a location modifier, this is how I do it, right? I do one like that, one like this, and then just one with just Roanoke. So that's 3 entity variants for the same location, right? And so what I'm saying is, if you think about it, what I would do is I would say, pest control, where I would put company name first. So let's say Benner's Pest Control, right? Or Benner's Exterminators. Let's use that. Benner's Exterminators is the name of my company. So the location page then, and I'll put this in just to give you guys an example. I would say Benner's Exterminators. Then I would do pest control, because that would be the primary. I would do pest control service, because that's the primary Google business category, pest control service, right? And then I would have Roanoke, Virginia. I like to spell it out in the SEO title. So this would be the SEO title. I'm getting to a point here, guys. I swear to God. All right. So this is the SEO title. And then what I would do is in the H1 is another title. There's two titles on the page, SEO title, or two titles for the page, the SEO title and the H1. Okay. So the H1, which is the page or post title. So let me go ahead and add that here, page or post title. Okay. Then what I do is a variant of, so it's restating the semantic triple statement that the SEO title was formed after, right? So we used an entity association statement in the SEO title, which is who is this company? What do they do? Where do they do it? Benner's Exterminators is a pest control service that's in Roanoke, Virginia. In this case, because it's a location page, right? So then the SEO title, excuse me, the H1, which is the page or post title, is a restatement. You do not need to reference the brand again. You can, it's optional, but it's not needed because that's been established. It's been established because it's in the SEO title and this page or post is published on the branded domain. Doesn't matter whether the domain is bennersexterminators.com or not. It means it's the domain associated with that brand. So that's why I say branded domain. It could be an exact match. It could be pestcontrolroanoke.com. It doesn't matter. It's the branded domain. You understand? Because the page or post title is a page or post that is published onto that domain that is associated with that brand. Do you get it? So again, it's associations. So we have an entity association or semantic triple statement here that says this is who the business is, this is what they do, this is where they do it. So then in the H1, you can then restate the product or service entity and the location entity, right? And so, for example, I might say something like Roanoke's. Roanoke, I always have to think about spelling that. Top, and let's just take a look at these variants here. And we'll say pest exterminators or pest extermination service. And the reason I'm going to say that is because you can see that I have I try not to duplicate terms, guys, when possible. Sometimes it's not possible, but since I have exterminators already in the brand name, which was, again, you can restate the brand name in the H1. That's not a problem, but it's not necessary. That's optional. It's a preference thing. Okay, but so I'm going to say Roanoke's Top Pest Extermination Service, right? So that's a variant of exterminator. It's extermination service, right? And pest extermination service is a variant of pest control service. So you see what I'm saying? Now we've got an entity variant for the location entity, and we've got an entity variant for the service, right? Okay, so then what I would do is an H2. The H2 that says, and I could use, you can restate the brand here if you'd like, but Benner's Exterminators services in Roanoke, VA this time, right? You guys understand? Now we've got now a reference to the brand, or you could use another, you could say insect control services. Let's do that because I see insect control right there if you guys see it. So I'm just showing you guys that you can have different formats here. But do you understand now, once again, what are we doing? Insect control services, which is an entity variant for pest control, right? In Roanoke, VA, not VQ. I don't even know VQ is in a state. So anyway, insect control services in Roanoke, VA. And then this is where the H3s, H3 anchor text links would then reference and link to each of the supporting or the service pages, right? So in the pest control industry, they typically, what I recommend is that they have a separate page for each pest control service, right? So one of them could be, like, I don't know, cockroach control, or let's just say roach control, right? Roach control. Or God damn it, I can never talk and type. For years, I've had trouble doing that. I don't know why. Roach control. Another one could be, snake control, right? Spider control. Termite, right? Termites. You can add that, whatever. So the point that I'm trying to make is these are now H3s. And think about the hierarchy of the page now, guys. You have the SEO title, which is a semantic triple statement or an entity association statement, which is right after, remember, example, see, look, I can never talk and type properly. And remember, the URL is the first touch point, right? So I'm just going to put first touch point. So you don't want to over optimize that either. okay, which I still see a lot of SEOs doing. So the SEO title, semantic triple statement, entity association statement. The H1 restates the service and location entities. Then the H2 restates or supports what the SEO title and the H1 say. And it's saying these are the insect control services available in Roanoke, Virginia. And then, and again, entity variant for the location. And then now we have H3s that are going to internally link H3 anchor text links, anchor tags, right? That are going to link directly to the service pages that then are thoroughly optimized for what that service is, how it's delivered, what they can expect, what it costs, frequently asked questions, all of that. That's where the content goes. The content shouldn't be the homepage, and it shouldn't be the location pages. The content should be on the service pages, which thoroughly describes that service, how it's delivered, what it costs, frequently asked questions, all the stuff that thoroughly describes what that service is to not only Google, but to a visitor. Now, the visitor, when a human goes to Google and searches for pest control service near me, and they're located in Roanoke, Virginia, then the Roanoke page should rank. And the page does not need to have a wall of text or, as the question asked, 25 H2s that are using every one of these entity variants for pest control. None of that is necessary. You can keep the location pages down to who is this business? How do I contact them or ask them to contact me? And what services are available at this location or in this area? And that's it. That's all the page needs, guys. I'm serious. You can then also have an FAQ section, right? If you'd like, that are questions and answers specific to that to that location, right? So you can have FAQs. I'm not saying that that's all the page should have, but I'm saying those are the essentials. And there now you have all of, think about that, guys. If remember, like, let's take a look at this. I just saw bat removal, right? So let's say that, and there's also rodent control, right? Rodent control is actually a subtopic of pest control. I think of pest control as insect control, but pest control includes rodent control. Do you understand? And so what I'm saying is, now, if you think about how this page is structured, guys, now you have H3s that are supporting or support essentially the respective H2, right? That says these are the services available. And now this is associating each one of these individual services with this specific location. And on the service pages, right, you would have the URL, the SEO title, which in the service pages, I usually lead with the brand lead with the service instead of the brand. And we omit any location mentioned in the SEO title because that service should be available to all locations within the service area. So why would you add location modifier to the SEO title? If you wanted to add a location modifier to the SEO title, it would be a broad location entity that is all inclusive of the individual cities, towns, census designated places, unincorporated communities, etc., that are within the service area. Roanoke is a specific municipality, right? It's a specific city. And so therefore Roanoke would have its own page. But what I'm saying is, like, if you go take a look at, and again, we'll just come back to, if we go to Roanoke, Virginia, we'll see that Roanoke, Virginia is an independent city of Virginia. It's in the Southwest Virginia, which is a very large region. So I would narrow that. I wouldn't want to use Southwest Virginia unless the company actually served all of the entirety of Southwest Virginia, but that's unlikely. But then what you could do is, like, again, here's a smaller region called the Roanoke Valley, right? So this is a region. I don't know if it's going to show where it is, but this is the region that includes certain counties, right? So here's another one called the Roanoke Metropolitan Area, right? Again, if you click on tools, what links here, hide train exclusions and hide links, and click go, you'll see that there's the different names that could be used for the Roanoke Metropolitan Area. Roanoke Valley is another region that's, I think, a little bit smaller than the metropolitan area. So it just depends on, and if you read through here, it tells you which ones are which and which counties are included in this Roanoke Valley. If you go back over to the Roanoke Metropolitan area, which is basically Greater Roanoke, you can also look at the communities here, and you can see the counties that make up that region, the independent cities, the places. These are different cities and towns and unincorporated communities, etc. So now you can, again, whatever is the most appropriate for the business. You want to reference that as the broad location entity that is all inclusive of the areas that they serve within their service area. So on a service page, you should either omit, which is my preference, entirely the SEO title. So let's just say we're going to go with roach control, right? So I like to lead with the service title in for service pages, and then I would do the brand, so Benner's Exterminators, and I would omit any mention of the location modifier, right? Then in the H1, remember, you restate what the SEO title says, but in this case, we can omit the brand because it's already been established. Again, it's a preference thing. You can add that to the H1 if you'd like. But what I would do is say something like, let's just go with Roanoke Valley again, just because I know that one. So let's say Roanoke Valley's top roach. And I would go look at roach or cockroach or whatever and see if I could find some other, and maybe you call it a cockroach here. I don't know. And I don't know if that's supposed to be one word or two words, to be honest with you. Roanoke Valley's top cockroach control service, right? So now we have an entity variant. We've got the broad location entity being referenced in the H1 of the service page. The service, now we've got an H2 that is going to say, you're going to have other H2s possibly on the page that are going to be more thorough about how it's delivered, how the service is delivered, what they can expect, what the cost of it is, frequently asked questions, how to prevent cockroaches or roaches from infestations. Like all of that stuff can be on the service page because that is what should thoroughly describe the service. But do you guys understand why we do this? Why the service pages should be thoroughly optimized with all that detail, but the location pages shouldn't? Because what do we see right now, currently, still to this day, and I see it every single week, multiple times per week, because I'm auditing or doing competitive link analysis reports every single day for my white label clients, which are SEO agencies and professionals that have local business clients, right? And so I'm all the time reviewing other SEOs' work. And what I see all the time, I see these location pages with these walls of text where roach control has its own H2 and paragraphs of text. Snake control has its own H2 and paragraph, and that's for one city. And then every single one of the cities in that entire service area has its own page with that much text. What is the purpose of that? How is that useful to anybody? It's not helpful to Google because it requires a lot more crawl budget. It's harder for Google to the site's not efficient anymore. It's bloated. It's full. It's not useful to the visitors because the visitors, why do they need all of that? When the location page should be, look, if somebody searches for pest control near me and they're in Roanoke, Virginia, and your location page ranks, they got the answer to what they were searching for. It's a pest control company. This is who we are. This is what we do. And this is where we do it. So yes, you're in the right place, consumer. Here's how to contact us or request that we contact you. And here are the services, the specific services that we provide in this area. Choose your poison, choose your own adventure. Which one is the most relevant? And then they click through to that, and that's where they get all the information about that particular service. It doesn't have to be repeated on every single location page. What is the purpose of that? There's no reason to repeat that on every location page. All you need is an internal link to the one page that is thoroughly optimized for that specific service. And then that creates the associations between the location and all of the services that are available at that location. And then on the service page, it creates the association between that specific service and all of the locations that that's available to. So I'm just going to use roach extermination this time as an example. Roach extermination services, service areas is what I like to put. Service areas and then I'll put Roanoke Valley again, right? And I probably would use, if there's entity variants for that, which we could probably go look at very quickly. There might not be for this, but we'll look. No, there's none. So that's fine. You could, if there's no variants, you don't need to use variants. Okay. Roach extermination service areas in Roanoke Valley. And then this is where, sorry, you're going to have, and I could put an indent there. That would actually probably be a little bit helpful. That's what I meant to do. All right, right there. So we're going to do H3 and we're going to say, now we're going to say Roanoke, right? And then, God damn it. Let's just pick another one. Salem. Salem's another one that's going to be in that area, right? Salem, Virginia. So we'll pick that one. Another one would be Hollins, Virginia, right? So the point is, you guys understand what we're doing here and why this is efficient? Because again, this particular service now which is the primary Google business category, which all of these are supporting services that fall under this service category. Do you get it? So the location page should be optimized for the primary service category, in my opinion. That's how I like to do it. And then the H1 is going to restate it using the top level topic term, which is the entity term from Wikipedia, right? Then the H2s are going to say using another variant of that entity term and Google business category, because that Google business category was created from the entity terms anyways. And we're saying these are the specific services that relate to pest control that are available in this particular city. And this creates the association between each of these and this city. So you don't need to have separate pages for roach control Roanoke, snake control Roanoke. You also don't need to have an H2 with paragraphs of text for each one of those either. Do you get what I'm saying? Because again, that is completely unnecessary. You'd be wasting your time publishing a shit ton of content that is duplicate, redundant content that nobody's reading, that Google doesn't like, and it makes it harder for the visitors to get to what it is that they were searching for, right? Again, if you just make it easy, the location pages should be very basic, in my opinion, that satisfies the query. Am I in the right place? Who is this company? How do I contact them? And what services are available in my area? Which should be the page that they came in on. And then it links directly to the page. And then on the service page, again, it's associating this specific service now with each of these locations. So, right. So it's a reciprocal link between location pages and service pages and vice versa. Okay. They always link back and forth to each other, but it's super efficient that way. Think about it. When you build a link to this page here, guys, what happens? All the link equity and relevance flows through the internal links to the specific service pages. What happens when the link equity flows to each one of these service pages? It flows back to all of the relevant location pages. So you're creating internal link wheels within the site. You understand? So it's much more efficient for link building too. So under traditional old school tactics that I still see SEOs doing every single day, you would have a separate page for roach control Roanoke, snake control Roanoke, spider control Roanoke. Then you would have one for roach control Salem, snake control Salem, spider control Salem, right? And now think about all those link building targets that you've just created and the inefficiency of the site for Google to crawl, and what you've done for you've created a ton of additional work for yourself. You're going to dilute the effectiveness of links. You're going to increase crawl resistance because the site's no longer efficient. There's redundancy. Helpful content update specifically punishes stuff like that. So why do SEOs still do that? I still see that all the time, daily, almost daily, because I do an audit or a competitive link analysis almost every day. And it's just unbelievable to me that people are still optimizing that way. And here's the thing, guys. I sell white label link building services to other SEO professionals. Okay. And whenever I get onto a sales call, whenever I talk about links, and I always get to the point where, like, listen, when you submit a campaign to me, to semantic links, we are assuming that the on page is done fairly decently. Doesn't have to be perfect, but it just has to be done fairly decently. And at that point of the sales conversation with other SEO professionals, about 80% out of the time, maybe 60 to 80%, 6 to 8 out of 10 prospects or contacts that I'm on a sales call with, when I get to the part where I say, as long as your on page is fairly decent, you should get decent results from these links within, the amount of time that I specify based upon the competitive link analysis report. And that's where 6 to 8 out of 10 SEOs will say, oh, well, our on page is pretty solid. We're really good at on page. I hear that time and again. And then they submit the campaigns and I go look at the on page, and I start seeing stuff like what I just described. And then that's when I'll recommend to them, hey, get a full SEO audit, man, because you're using very outdated tactics. I promise you, campaign is not going to respond properly to these links, or at least not as well as it could if you were to improve the on-page optimization a bit, get rid of some of this redundancy, this over-optimization, these excessive crawl resistance. Thank you, Cecilia. She's the one that gave me that term, and I love that term as well. But again, I always bring that up because it's not because I'm trying to call them out, guys. It's because the SEOs are out there telling their clients, pitching their services as, we're the best. We're awesome. We can get you outstanding results in local search. And then they submit a campaign to me where there's keyword times city for every keyword times every city. The location pages have walls of text all of that. And it's not going to perform well that way. I can tell you that for sure. Okay. So to answer your question, you don't need to use all those entity variants whose iPhone, especially for location pages. Stick down to what is most appropriate that you want to convey to Google and to the visitor, the human, right, the consumer. The headings, and so the main optimization elements of the page should be optimized for SEO, in my opinion. And the content, the paragraph text between headings and subheadings, should be optimized for converting the visitor into whatever conversion goal you want them to take. Submit a form, make a phone call, opt in, make a purchase, whatever the conversion goal of the page is. That's what the paragraph text should be optimized for, to convert the visitor into whatever it is that you want them to do. The main optimization elements of the page should be optimized for SEO, in my opinion. Okay. Great question. Hope that was helpful. Moving on. Next one. I spent a lot of time on that. I'm sorry. James says, hi, Bradley. Are you experiencing email open rates drop off for the directory? I'm currently prospecting in California. My open rates are only between 25 and 30% to compared to the previous state around 60 to 70. No, mine are still very high. And I'm not picking on you, James. Just to be clear, I want to show you, just because I just started this campaign today and I'm sending 75 emails out a day from this campaign. Let me go back and show you. This is one that I just finished. I mean, look at this. It tapered off on April 23rd is when it stopped sending out new emails, because that's when we had 800, well, we had a total of 860-ish contacts in this list. And we ran through it. But in the last 4 weeks, because by the way, in the email sequence, guys, like if we go back and take a look at the analytics right here, here's an example. Take a look at the opened rates. And what I typically see is usually from in kind of historical data is step number 4, and I'm not sure why, but step number 4 tends to be the email that we get the highest open rates on. And it's not because the subject line is any different, or because they're all very similar, the subject lines. But for whatever reason, we typically get a fairly decent open rate on email 1, and then email 4 tends to be a high open rate as well, if that makes sense. And so I'm just pointing that out because you see open rates of 83%. Now, if we were to look at, like, let's go ahead and look at, I think this one, yeah. So if we do 6 months, let's just go to 3 months. There we go. So our overall open rate was 42%, but that's also because I had disabled open tracking for the first half of this campaign. So in all reality, if I would really just go back and say, yeah, like again, last 4 weeks, if we did something custom a little bit more, like where I would go back to, maybe 6 weeks or something like that, you'd see that my open rates are typically somewhere in the 60% range, somewhere in that range. Okay. So absolutely, it still works. I've not seen, look, go check your email accounts and make sure that your health score, if you're using a decent warm-up system, you want to make sure that your health score is 95 plus or 95% and above, right? If it drops below 95%, you might start experiencing deliverability or inboxing issues, which will affect your open rates. Okay. So it's a great, man, I'm telling you guys, at Rock and Roll, like we've got our current, we're in week 11 of the 12-week program for the phase 1 group 3 members. So this is the third group that we've had to go through the DHA phase 1 program, which is setting up the whole infrastructure for the cold emailing campaign, the directory, all of that. That's what the whole program is for. And we now have 3 of the members there's 11 members in the group, and we've had 3 of them now that have finally started emailing. The whole group is a little bit behind, which is fine. It's fine. But they should have, according to my schedule, they should have been emailing 5 weeks ago. 5 weeks ago. But many of them just started. One of our members started emailing 2 or 3 weeks ago, but a couple of our members just started emailing last week, and all 3 of them have already started receiving inbound replies. So it absolutely works, guys. 100%. Again, 4 years now. All I've done is I've grown 4 different SEO related agencies, or businesses, I should say, not all agencies, using cold email. Right? It works phenomenally well. Okay. Alex says, hey, Bradley, I have a fairly new domain in Zootrix that is making consistent increases in ranking, but also bounces around in the SERPs for some of the primary keywords by 10 to 30 positions at a time. I have branded assets, citations, and links going on. Do you have any thoughts on this? Fair, normal with Google these days, or does it fair, normal with Google these days? I'm not sure what that means. Or does it need more assets, links, etc.? It's hard for me to answer that question without more detail, Alex. And it really is. I mean, it could be It could be that there are pages that are competing with each other, and that's why there's some significant fluctuations in or ranking volatility, I should say. I don't know that that's the case. I'm just giving you some potential causes, possible causes, right? It could be that there's competing pages, so pages that are too similarly titled, or so that Google is unsure of which page is most appropriate for a particular search query when more than one page on the site is relevant to the query, if that makes sense. I'm not saying that's the problem. I'm just saying it could be. Could also be your internal linking might need to be cleaned up a bit. I don't know what your structure is. Are you using the kind of template that I provided in that type of a structure? Then it shouldn't be an internal linking thing. But if you're not using that type of a structure, it may very well be an internal linking thing. It could also be an external link thing. I don't think necessarily, I mean, I don't know how many branded assets you have. One of the ways, guys, again, remember, I've talked about this many times. Let me pause the screen very briefly, and I'll go back over here. Make sure it's clear. Okay. So you guys know, I use this, but you can use any of the apps that do this. But first, determine how strong is the knowledge, like how well developed is the knowledge graph for that local business brand in that specific location, really, right? For example, we'll use that Albemarle Felling Pro as an example because I just showed that anyways. So if we go to Charlottesville, VA here, and we add in Albemarle, and this used to be called Tree Care HQ Charlottesville, so we'll see, but we're going to add the brand name here, Albemarle Felling Pro. If you geolocate the browser for the same city that the GBP is located in, or the campaign, it might not have a GBP. I don't know that, but if it's a local business, if it's a local campaign and it has a GBP, and you geolocate the browser to simulate a search from the same city that the GBP is physically located in or verified in, and then you go do a brand search, which you should see is out of the top 2 pages of the search results minimum. This is my minimum threshold. If the knowledge graph is not developed enough to where the top 2 pages are almost entirely populated, 80% or greater, which would be 16 or more of the top 20 search results, should be specifically referencing this particular branded location. If it's a multi-location brand, then it's okay if the top page results are also referencing some of the other locations because it's still returning branded search results. But what I'm saying is if it's a single location, and by the way, even if it's a multi-location business, when you geolocate the browser for the specific city that the GBP is located in, then it should be returning mostly page URLs that have accurate information published about that specific location because of the geolocated browser. But what I'm saying is at my minimum threshold, if the knowledge graph is not developed enough to where a branded search with a localized browser returns at least 16 out of the top 20 results with branded or supporting assets or external page URLs that are referencing that particular business location, then that is always step number 1 for me. No kidding. Before I do anything else, I do a brand builder, which is a service that I provide to my tree service clients. And we have a similar service. It's a little bit of a watered down version of it for semantic links clients, et cetera, white label clients, all of that. But we do the brand building first, okay? Because that has a significant influence on how all the other SEO activities, how the campaign will respond to the other SEO activities. Okay, so if we go take a look at this, we're going to look at page number 1. You should see a knowledge panel pop. Or if it's a multi-location business, then if it shows multiple locations in the 3-pack or 2-pack or 5-pack or whatever it is, then it should be this location that's ranking at the top of that pack. If it's not, then there's a problem with that particular GBP because we geolocated the browser for this specific location. So the results should be returned that are most relevant for that location. Get it? And so take a look at this. What are we looking at, right? Remember, Tree Care HQ Seville is what I used to call it, or Charlottesville. But what do we have here? We got basically the whole page other than ads optimized or are returning page URLs that are referencing this location. So then we're going to go to page 2. We're going to look at the same thing on page 2. What do we see? Albemarle Felling Pro. Now here's one that that's a Yellow Pages index page. So in other words, it's a list of other tree service contractors, but Albemarle Felling Pro is referenced there. So that's not the individual citation, but it's still being referenced there. And it's being highlighted by Google, right? So again, in my opinion, that's still a valid result. And so what do we see here, guys? This one right here, we get down to 16. It looks like 16. Well, let's see, 17, 18, 19, 20. So we really have 17, it looks like, out of 20 for here. And this was actually rebranded, I don't know, like I said, probably about 6 months ago, maybe longer. But from Tree Care HQ Charlottesville to Albemarle Felling Pro. So I bring all that up because what I'm saying is I don't know what is causing that problem. Look at, is there potential cannibal or competing pages? I don't really see cannibalization right now. I see competing pages though. So is there competing pages? How is the internal linking structure done? Is it done properly? If not, can you improve internal linking to help the sites start to perform better? Look at your external backlink profiles, do a competitive link analysis with the other top ranked competitors for the search queries that are relevant or important to that business. And you can determine, is there a deficiency in links? Do you have topical relevance imbalance? Do you have an anchor text ratio imbalance? Look at, the branding, as you said, branded assets. Maybe it needs more branded assets. Maybe it doesn't. You can always have more branded assets. That's never going to hurt. But again, you can determine that very quickly with a quick Google search using a browser geolocator like this. And you can determine if it's not strong enough, where I've got 17 out of 20, as I just showed you guys live on this call. So in my opinion, this is good. It doesn't mean you can't continue to reinforce the brand. You should be. But it's a good starting, good enough to get started on other SEO activities like link building, et cetera. Does that make sense? So again, it's just about trying to identify all those different things of look at all of those things. Remember, if you're not doing a competitive link analysis, it could be a backlink thing, right? There's training on our YouTube channel that's free that shows you exactly how we do competitive link analysis reports, the same exact reports that you can buy from me at Semantic Links. I show you exactly how to do that, free on our channel. Just go search it, competitive link analysis. On our YouTube channel, you'll find it. Okay. Anyways, moving on. It's a good question. How would you structure a local business website targeting multiple GB categories? I have a client that does concrete, landscaping, and deck building. So there is no one master GBV category to optimize the homepage and locations for. No, but I actually just covered this last week on the Mastermind webinar, and I built a example site to show how to do it. Okay. And it's an example. Look, I'll give you guys the example site. You can go poke around on it. But I don't have time to get into this, nor would I. That is mastermind training, guys, just to be clear. I'm not going to do site structure examples in Hump Day Hangouts. When I do that in Mastermind, that's what I talked about earlier on the call, where if you join the Mastermind, if you have site for specific examples or situations, clients, whatever, where you want to see how to apply this type of a optimization method to that site build, all you got to do is request it in the Mastermind, and I will produce some training about what the starting point of that would be. So remember, I'm not in these other industries, guys. All I can do is give you a very good starting point for how to structure a site so that it will perform best with this type of a model. But then it's up to you to trial and error, right? You have to test single variable tests to figure out what configuration changes produce the best performance. And so I can give you the starting point, but I'm not in all these other industries. And I cannot know without testing in those industries. And I am certainly not going to go out and build test sites in other industries that I don't work in just for teaching purposes. I do occasionally, like somebody asked me to do a multi-location, multi-service category type of a structure. And I spent over 3 hours developing this demo site here specifically just so I could do training on it for our Mastermind now. You join the Mastermind, I'll do things like that, but I'm certainly not going to do that free on a Hump Day Hangout, guys. I apologize for that, but I will share this with you so that you can poke around and look at it. Just look at it in take a screenshot, press.cityscene.media. It's just a demo site that is set to no index so that I can show different structural configurations, etc., based upon service area locations, service categories, etc. Right? Just pointing that out. Okay. So anyway, I'm going to move on. Next question. So come join the Mastermind. Now, happy to, all you got to do is post a request. Like, hey, here's a site structure that I would like to see. What do I do for this? Give me the details. What are the service categories? What are their service areas? And from that, I can provide you with a mock example of how I would, remember, it's only a starting point. I try to say this all the time. When I give a site structure example, that does not mean it's gospel, it's law. That if you implement that, you're absolutely going to crush all the competition, because I'm not in those industries, guys. I'm in the tree service industry. I know what works in the tree service industry because I test in that industry. That model can be applied to other circumstances, other local businesses, etc. but it's going to be up to you to do the changing, the split testing against whatever is your control. Remember, your control is your best performer. It will change split test, excuse me, against that control. And if you find something that produces a performance gain, you duplicate that across other tests and see, does it. The way that I determine if something is valid enough to integrate it into the control, meaning it becomes part of the standard operating procedure, so to speak, is if I find something that a single variable change that produces a performance gain that will happen more often than not. Like, in other words, if I test it 10 times and 6 out of 10 times it produces a gain, but the other 4 a marginal gain or no gain at all, no change, then I will still consider that as something valid enough to now incorporate into my actual control, my standard operating procedure, if that makes sense. Right? And then once you do that, you do it again. You find something else. What do I mean? Well, change the terms that you're testing in the SEO title and the H1, right? Use different entity variants, things like that. You can change the H2 headings. You can change, there's a number of things that you can test with. But again, it's just a starting point. And I can provide that to you in the mastermind. Otherwise, you can poke around and look at this and just get some examples, some ideas. Moving on. Huzaifa says, can you recommend a service for opening an LLC as a non-resident? And do you teach this in the mastermind? I don't know. I don't know how to do that. You can probably just do some Google searches or ChatGPT or Grok or something like that and find out how to open an LLC as a non-US resident. I don't know how to do that, but I do teach how to create DBAs, doing business as, or fictitious names, so that you only need to have one corporation. You can have multiple marketing businesses, multiple brands, but if they're all in the same like business category, which would be marketing services, which is what all of my brands are, they're all marketing related. So I have one corporation, that a number of DBAs under that, so I can operate under several different business names because they're all registered as official fictitious names, right? In the state of Virginia, it only costs $10 and you do it online through the State Corporation Commission website. It's very easy to do. Create DBAs, to create an LLC, it's only $99. It's easy to do too, in the state of Virginia anyway. So, but anyway, just Google it, or ChatGPT it, you'll find it. All right, we're almost out of time and we've got a thunderstorm going on anyway, so I might lose power. Thoughts on adding text on top of GBP images? Yeah, I've been doing that for years. Now all we do is really the logo overlay and a QR code, and the QR code links back to the website so that, because Google reads that. So you can actually, text overlay. We've been doing that for years. But like I said, I just stick to doing a logo overlay and a QR code. We do a logo and a QR code on our sites now. Again, just go look at Felling Pro. You'll see what I'm talking. Alex says, hey, Bradley, I launched a new site a few weeks ago and was performing on page 3 or 4, 3 to 5, and then out of nowhere it disappears from ranking, but it's still indexed. I've had this happen with a few sites. They totally appear and disappear randomly from results, but are still indexed. Have you seen this happen? Yeah, typically that's something to do with an algorithm update, like the Google spam update from December 2024. That was a huge one. And we saw a lot of sites got hit where they would still remain indexed, but they just completely dropped in rankings and lost all traffic in Search Console, but they were still indexed. That was a lot. A lot of that had to do with the Google spam update from December. Like, we saw a lot of people's sites got hit. They had no reason to get hit. They weren't doing anything spammy. They just got caught up as an unintended consequence in that particular algorithm update. And that happens every single time. You guys have noticed probably the Google business posts have not been showing in GB's Google business lately. At least a lot of them are not showing. Again, that's likely just a bug from Google. From what I understand, I haven't researched it, but I see this kind of, especially Google business, it's very, very buggy. And so there's always things that break temporarily until Google gets around to fixing them. So that's my assumption with the Google business post. Maybe it's been announced that they're getting rid of them, but typically it's a bug. And unless they announce it, it will resolve itself at some point. Same thing with these. Like, if you've got sites that just completely disappear from the search results, and if you check Search Console and they've completely lost impressions, like they're not receiving impressions anymore, even if they're still indexed, change the domain. That's the quickest and easiest way to recover. You could try to recover on-page optimization or penalties. You can try to recover from a penalty which could be possible. It might be an algorithmic penalty. If you don't have a manual spam action notification in Search Console, it could be an algorithmic penalty. That is likely what is occurring. And it's very difficult. On page, it's typically a little bit easier to recover from, but off page, link penalties, essentially, they're very, very difficult to recover from. And I've spent months and months, like sometimes, like I had a tree service brand that I had for many, many years, and it got hit with an algorithmic penalty. The domain did, and I lost a bunch of rankings, and so I spent 5 months trying to recover that site. Spent an enormous amount of time, over 5 months, trying to recover it. Was never able to recover it. So eventually I gave up and I just started moving the individual locations to subdomains of a new domain and setting up new sites, etc. And they started to come back. Not fully, but I was able to recover a lot of the rankings that way. And so again, just change the domain. Okay. All right, guys, we're about out of time. I can stay for 5 more minutes to try to wrap up a couple more of these questions if I make them quick, and then I'm going to wrap it up for the day. If anybody's still here from my team, you guys are free to go. I'm going to wrap up in just a moment. All right, so next question was from Huzaifa as well. Would it make sense to start cold emailing manually without software? Yeah, you can, but that's difficult. I'm happy to wait for replies and do the grunt work myself for now. Then sure, yeah, by all means. Hey, if you're hungry enough, man, go did it. Go do it. All right. If I was absolutely desperate to make some money, and then I'm not saying you are, Huzaifa. I have no idea what your situation is. I'm just stating, if I were in a pinch and I needed to make some money quickly and I didn't have all the tools available already, then yeah, absolutely, I would do it manually. I'd do whatever it took, right? Video emails works really well for that, by the way. You just record a video, send it to a client. What you can do is do some phishing, right? I don't mean the negative type of phishing, but I mean like you can send out emails and say, hey, I recorded a video about things that I found that can help you improve your presence, blah, 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 whatever. I'm telling you, it's hard to get through to people that way. But if you do, and they reply back and say, yeah, send it to me, then you record the video. Don't do what I did. For years, I recorded the video and would spend 10 or 15 minutes recording a video and then sending it to prospects that never opened my email or would never reply, because I don't even know if they ever got it back, years ago, before I had all the software to tell me whether they opened it and all that stuff. And so there was a lot of wasted effort. So instead, fish, right? Go out and send out emails saying that you recorded a video. And for those that reply, then you record a video. Show them how you can help them get better results, right? That's a great way to do it. It's still very manual, but it works. It works really well, right? Okay. Sebi says, Google AI reviews are hurting click-through rates. Yes. I noticed that my traffic has been way lower. Yeah, it's true. How can I overcome this? Is SEO a lost battle with AI? No. I mean, again, guys, this will affect local search a lot less than it will general search, right? Do you understand? People are still very much used to searching Google and Google Maps for things near them, things like that, providers of products and services near them within their area. And so I think the AI, organic traffic has been declining. There's no question. But, if you're focusing on local markets, the AI summaries and things it's going to affect local slower than it does traditional organic search, like non-local search. Do you understand? At least that's my assumption. And what I'm seeing is that it's less of an effect. It's hurting the local space less. It's still affecting it. Don't get me wrong. But there's also, figure out how to optimize large language models, right? Manipulate them as well. And there is some training out there. Peter Drew's got some about that, etc. I'm going to skip that one. Go to Alex. Says, Bradley, what are your thoughts on creating service pages targeting large national brand searches like Roto-Rooter, Plumber, or TrekStex in addition to plumbers in Denver? I'm not saying just make a branded LOG site for Roto-Rooter. I'm saying using the Roto-Rooter brand for some of the service pages. I hope that makes sense. Thanks. Yeah, but problem with that is if you do that, you will likely get a trademark infringement and a cease and desist letter, from an attorney for those companies. Trust me, it'll happen. We buy expired domains all the time, and we just relaunch expired. And when I say relaunch, we take expired domains and then publish a site on them with brand new non-branded content. And we get all the time, I get emails from attorneys telling me that we are infringing on trademarks because the domain name has a company's name in it, and we purchased it and have it published on the web. No kidding. I've gotten several of those in the last 3 months. No kidding. Where I've had to basically terminate the site And in some cases, they ask to have the domain transferred to them. In many cases, they say just delete the site, take it offline, and I'll take it down and replace it with another site, if that makes sense. So you got to be real careful when you're using company names. Now, here's a better option. Why not squeeze that stuff into the schema so it's not publicly seen, right? Try that. I've not done that, but you can. I mean, I've not tested with that, but why not? Why not try it? Why not put in there like knows about, right? Knows about attributes and local business schema. You could reference the other companies, right? For example, just test with it. All I'm saying is be careful when you're using other branded names because you can get in trouble. You can be sued for that shit. So just be careful, right? Eric says, what is a new format for seeing only the knowledge panel? It looks like, oh, I already shared that with you. But right there's the URL. Okay, guys. Again, I put this on the screen earlier, so take a screenshot of it if you didn't already. That's these right here. That is the knowledge panel only URL. All you got to do is get your KGM ID, which you can get from the Plepper local SEO Chrome extension. And then you just append that to this string here. And there's your knowledge panel only. This is what it looks like. Remember I showed that earlier? Sit right here. Okay. All right. I think we're done. Ryan says, I've known Brad for years. When we were part of Dory Friends annual program, when we first met, it said event in Las Vegas. That's awesome. That would have been 2017, Ryan. 2017 is when I went to the SEO. The hell did she call that? Whatever the name of it is. I can't remember. That's awful that I can't think of the name right now. But she has an amazing event. So does the SEO spring training event. That's an amazing event too. Those are the two best SEO events I've ever been to. Is Dory's event and Terry's event for SEO spring training. So, well, that's cool, Ryan. Hey, man, feel free anytime to jump in and say hi. All right, guys, I've got to wrap it up. Is there any questions? I don't know. I don't even think my team members are still on. Are they? Adam, you're still here, man. I'm surprised. Any questions I need to target?
I was just checking that out, but you beat me over there.
Okay. Okay, so you say, so thank you so much, Bradley. Sorry for being so professionally persistent. I think my oversight was the fact that to see the knowledge panel, only you have to be logged into the profile that has access to the GBP. Well, I didn't know that. Because wait a minute, if that's the case, then how come this isn't asking me to manage? Oh, it does say I manage the profile. Okay, maybe so. That's interesting. I hadn't even noticed that. Aha, that is interesting. Okay, well, maybe I can play around with it and try to figure out where if there's a public version of that. I was unaware that that did that, Eric. So I'm glad you pointed that out. I'll have to look at that and see if I can figure out if there's another format that makes it public. God damn it! Stop it! I keep hitting the same damn one. What am I looking for? The chat box for YouTube. There we go. I've been able to get my clients in the AI snippet. Rick Dugmore says, yeah, so have I. No kidding. I've been able to get several clients into the AI snippets, the AI search summaries or whatever. I've been able to get that several times. It's really interesting. Let's try to see if I can think of one that I could find really quick to show you guys. Let me just take a look at something. Go to Grok. Like, here's an example. This client actually just canceled with me today. No kidding, but I'm going to look it up anyways. It's been a client of mine for like 4 years too, but said he wanted to go with a local marketing company, like somebody that's in the same city that he's in. But I'm going to say, who is the best tree care contractor in Beverly, Massachusetts? Let's take a look at that one. Let's see if it comes up. It brought it up couple of weeks ago. Sequoia Tree and Crane Service, right there it is. So they pop in the now that's not an AI search summary, but I'm just saying this, this what I'm talking about is you can start to manipulate the large language models. There's a number of ways you can do that. I'm not going to get into that now because we're already way over. Peter Drew's doing a lot of teaching on that. He's got a tool that helps to facilitate that. I've been testing with that as well as some other things to try to just feed a bunch of content into the large language models. Remember, guys, there's also the LLMs.txt file that you can add, which is like it's like a robots.txt file, treecarehq.com. Right there it is. That's an example. LLMs.txt. It's like a robots.txt file that tells the large language models specifically, like, hey, go crawl and ingest this content, right? This is a very basic version. I just learned about this about a month ago, maybe 5 weeks ago, something like that. And so I found a tool that just did a pretty basic one, but I recently found another tool that makes it much more thoroughly optimized, LLMs, TXT file, etc. But I mean, again, guys, we need to modify how we are optimizing so that we're not just optimizing for search anymore, but also large language models. That's the whole point, right? That's the only way we're going to be able to stay current and valid. So I will be doing more teaching on this as I discover more things in the mastermind, especially. But I will cover, stuff conceptually here on them. Hump Day Hangouts. All right, guys, I'm gonna wrap it up. We're way over. I apologize.